I make you nervous.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my channel, Take Control of Your Health. I'm Dr. Corey Stern, and today I am welcoming a really special guest, and it's so special to me because I've mentioned on this channel a number of times how much I love animals and my pets, my two dogs, and so I have the honor and privilege of being friends with this man, Dr. Cameron Moorehead, and he is a mostly holistic vet. And Dr. Moorehead's been in practice for 32 years, and for 21 of those years, he's been practicing holistic health with pets and animals. And he's located in the Metro Atlanta area of Georgia, specifically in Stone Mountain, Georgia, which is about 15 miles east of Atlanta. And he has very generously agreed to donate his time today to help everybody learn more about how to apply some of the principles we've been talking about health and nutrition to animals, because you know, everything that I'm talking about on this channel applies to your pets, right? So you're maybe struggling to eat healthy and apply these principles to you, but they apply to your children and they apply to your animals exactly the same. So that said, let's start talking to Dr. Moorehead, who is actually also a friend of mine, and I bother him very frequently with questions about either my patients' pets with health issues or my own. I send him crazy photographs that he is like, I can't even see what you're showing me there. But he always answers me and he always tries to help. He's a wonderful man. So let's get started. And Dr. Moorehead, let me start by asking you, you started off as what we call a conventional vet. What changed? What made you decide to get trained in holistic health and apply it to your patients?
Okay, good question. So, hello everybody. um, my name is Cameron Moorehead, and how I got started in doing holistic work is that I had some personal health challenges that I was dealing with back in around 1995. And so a friend of mine told me about a chiropractor that was doing some holistic work, particularly muscle testing, energetic energy work, and that he could possibly help me. So I went to see him, and he started doing muscle testing on me and put me on some supplements. And after about 4 or 5 months, I got better. And being conventionally trained, I didn't understand what this guy was doing. And he told me that, you know, what I achieved with you, you can achieve this with animals. And I said, well, how can I do this with animals? Because with muscle testing, you have to have an indicator muscle, something that the patient is holding against you to push on, and animals aren't going to do that.
So
So
let me just jump in, and what Dr. Moorehead is referring to is a technique that he and I have both gotten trained in, where you push on a patient's arm and then touch different points in their body to get information. So
right.
yeah, I mean, yeah, no matter how many times I ask my dogs, hold your paws strong so I can push on it, they don't do it.
Yeah, I haven't figured out how to get them to do that.
Right.
So this gentleman told me that you have to use a human that's in contact with the patient, in this case the animal, and you're pushing on the human's arm while you're getting different energetic weaknesses with the patient. And it was like, wow, that would be cool. So I went to, it's called contact reflex analysis. And this is another technique that uses muscle testing and reflexes and that kind of thing. And I bought the manual, attempted to do that, went to a seminar, tried to learn that, and it was kind of difficult to learn. And so later, a couple years later, my chiropractor friend, he said, there's this gentleman in Clearwater. He's developed this technique or this technology called nutrition response testing. And so I was like, okay, I'll check that out. And so I bought the manuals. I mean, the manual, I'm sorry, not the manual, but the videos. Dr. Yulin was going around the country at the time recording his seminars, and he was doing demonstrations on people to determine what their health challenges were. And he had the supplements up there, and he would place the supplements into different areas, and the muscle test or the indicator muscle would get strong. And so he would prescribe different nutritional programs, at least at that moment, that could get the patient on the road to health. So I was like, that's really cool. So I started with my staff. I would have animals come to the back in the treatment area, animals that would be dropped off. And I would have my staff, my technician, touch the animal, and I would check the reflexes on the surface of the pet, because the reflexes are in the same anatomical location as humans are. They just stand on their four legs. They don't usually lay down flat. So once I started being able to feel the changes in the muscle, in the muscle response, I started prescribing whole food supplements from this company called Standard Process, whole food supplements to those reflex areas, and the muscle from the human indirect tester would get strong. And it was like, wow. So let me go ahead and prescribe this particular supplement at this particular dose that I would calculate and give it to the patient. Well, a few weeks later, the patient would come back for a recheck, and the patient would be feeling better. They would be just in a healthier state. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And so I took it to the next level, which is the intermediate level, the nutrition response testing intermediate level. And when I attended that seminar, I got more data of how to do this. And then I applied that, and I'm seeing tougher and tougher cases and just being able to handle different situations. Think cases like, and I'm not going to say I'm curing anything, because I'm not curing anything, but I'm helping these patients get well that are suffering from these conditions like epilepsy and arthritis and kidney issues and things like that. And it was like, wow. So around 2006, 2007, uh, I started entertaining the idea of doing the advanced levels of nutrition response testing. But back then, you had to go down to Clearwater 3 days a week for 6 months straight. And I was being the only practitioner. I didn't know how my practice would survive with me gone 3 days a week for 6 months. And my my office manager and my receptionist said, Dr. Moorehead, just you know you love this stuff, just go do it. And I did it. And now there's not, and that was 2007. So now there's nothing after doing the training, the advanced training. Now there's really nothing that walks through the door that I'm not saying you can cure everything that walks in the door, because you can't, but you have a you have a knowledge and an expertise to know what you can handle and whether a patient can get better, whether the owner's going to be on board. And it's just a certainty that you have with this type of training. So I've been doing this at this level since 2007. So that's 13 years. And I went ahead and redid the uh, the advanced clinical training again in 2018, and I just learned more of what I learned before. And so it's really holistic slash nutrition response testing is just the sky's the limit with this thing. And I think holistically, there's so many holistic modalities out there. Acupuncture, chiropractic, Chinese herbs, um, food therapies. There's so much stuff out there that these modalities are really helping pets get well without a lot of medicine or, you know, surgeries and that kind of thing. So it's really cool. I was kind of long-winded.
That's fine. We wanted to
That's fine.
hear your story. And
Okay.
I have a very similar story as you. I had health challenges. I was already, practicing as a chiropractor, and I was looking for solutions for myself, but also for my patients. And I ended up getting the exact same training, just maybe a year after you did, and getting the same results with humans that you're getting with animals. And I know how well this works for animals, which is the reason why I text you every 5 minutes to ask you animal questions. But animals, in my experience, animals are a little bit easier than humans. As long as the owner is compliant with following the recommendations, animals don't sneak out in the middle of the night and eat a pint of ice cream. And so I see them get better faster sometimes than humans do. But in that regard, let's talk a little bit about animals today, this generation of animals. I think I've mentioned this on my channel before, something called the Pottinger cat study, but let me just review it real quickly. There was a medical doctor I think it was in the 1950s,
Yeah, it was a little
who
bit earlier, but yeah, but
40,
40s and
late
50s.
40s, yeah.
Mhm.
And he was attempting to, I think, create or invent an adrenal medication for humans, and he was surgically removing the adrenal glands of cats
Mhm.
and to extract the gland, the hormone from the glands.
Right.
And he took note of the fact that some of his cats did really well and thrived and survived after the surgery, and other cats did not do so well. And what he noted specifically was the cats that were doing better were cats that were on a more natural diet, eating what we would
Raw
call
food.
raw
Mhm.
food, like chasing birds and mice. And cats not doing so well were eating a processed food diet. What people feed their cats: the canned cat food, the dry cat food. And so he ended up doing an experiment where he took two groups of cats and fed one group a raw diet and the other group a processed food diet. And he monitored their health over 3 generations and found that the processed food group was getting sicker and sicker with each generation. And in fact, by the third generation, had all of the conditions and diseases that we're seeing prevalent in our population now, right? So diabetes and heart disease and arthritis and kidney disease and
Cancers.
cancers and all
Mhm.
these things that we are struggling with in our human population. And then he took the third generation of sick cats, and he started feeding them a raw food diet, and it took 6 generations of cats to correct the genetic damage that was done by the bad food. So that's what we're seeing in humans, but we are seeing this in animals as well. So your pets have been eating bad food generation after generation since they started making processed food for animals. And do you know when that was, Dr. Moorehead? When did they actually invent processed pet food?
Oh, I'm not going to mention the company, but it's been many, many generations. We're probably talking about 1920s, 1930s, right around that same time of the industrial revolution where the commercial food started kicking in. So we're probably looking at 20s, 30s when that kibble food model came into being. So it's been a while.
It's about the same for humans. That's about when processed food was introduced,
Right.
processed human food was introduced as well. And the last video that I did was on cereal and how cereal is made um, by taking grains and making them into a slurry and then forcing them through this machine called an extruder. And
Right.
the extruder actually causes the proteins in the grains to denature and become very toxic. And I know that kibble is also put through an extruder.
Same process.
So it's almost like
Right.
eating crappy cereal.
Right.
Right.
That has no nutritive value to the pet.
Yeah.
So yeah. So guess what? Now the pet, since they're not getting any nutrition, now they're always hungry. They have to eat more and more to try to get some type of nutrition out of the food. So, they, like you said, they start to develop the same health challenges that people do: obesity, diabetes, cancer. They have the same arthritis. They have the same maladies that people are suffering from today. Even autoimmune diseases from all the sugar, all the grains, just the food that just is a food substitute. So we see that a lot. We see that a lot in our practice. And one of the first things we have to do is we have to train the owner, or maybe not train the owner, but at least enlighten the owner that your pet's not getting any food. I can give you all the supplements in the world, but if the pet is not eating food, bodies work on food. They don't work on food substitutes. And so we have to educate, and we have good foods lists for dogs and cats. And it's not a hardcore raw list, but it's a list for just gradiently getting the pet onto real food that people can identify with. Because if they've been feeding their pets some of these foods that are really, really bad, they're not going to jump just to a raw food diet. So you got to get them on a diet that's a little bit better. And then after that, a little bit better. And then over time, they're on that plus the supplements, they're on just a higher plane of nutrition.
Right, and that's actually what we do with humans as well. And on this channel, we're teaching you how to make small changes over time to improve your diet, which will end up improving your health. And so part of it is eating food that's actually food, our definition of food, or things that grow on the ground, grow on a tree, or have a mother and are minimally processed.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then, and not just eating food, but also avoiding toxins, right? So processed food always contains toxins. There's always just crap in it that actually creates disease in the body. So you're doing two things by eating bad food. You're creating nutritional deficiencies, and then you're also creating disease by
Right.
ingesting toxins. So why don't we talk about, we know what humans are supposed to eat, right? We know that a healthy diet for most humans would contain a variety of different plant foods, and if you're not a vegan, you would also have some animal protein in your diet. You would have some good quality fats. I've done videos on all those topics. What constitutes good nutrition for an animal? And I guess maybe we'll talk about mostly cats and dogs. Um, I guess some people have other pets as well. Do you see rabbits and guinea pigs and hamsters and in your
No, I
practice?
do not.
Okay, so you're seeing
I
mostly
don't.
cats and dogs?
Right. I don't deal with the more herbivorous or more plant eating pets, the exotics and that kind of thing.
Okay,
I don't see them.
so we'll
It's
talk about
mainly,
cats and dogs.
yeah, it's mainly dogs and cats. And I don't, I've gone to several holistic conferences and gone to quite a few nutrition seminars. And I know a lot of vets, nutrition vets, they concentrate on percentages and grams fed of protein and healthy fats and vegetable kind of thing. I don't, I haven't found the need to do that because I like to keep it simple. And I know some people like to do that kind of thing where they measure, the grams of this and the grams of protein, the grams of carbs, the grams of omega-3 fatty acids. I know people like to do that, and that's fine. But I am a keep it simple kind of guy. It's like these guys are carnivores. Dogs and cats are carnivores. You could call them obligate carnivores, meaning they can have some veggies or they like some leafy green vegetation. But I'm one that these folks need meat, whether it be chicken, beef, some fish, lamb. They need that, and they need some. A lot of times they do really well with um, essential fatty acids, whether it be fish oil, whether it be coconut oil, whether it be um, almond oil. They do really well with the oils and leafy green vegetables, liver detoxifying vegetables. Um, your broccolis, your kales, your spinaches, even things like lettuce. They do really well. And your parsleys and things like that, they do really well with those types of diets. And they don't need grains. Um, they just don't need it. They didn't have it back a million years ago. They weren't eating rice and you know those types of things. But they for me it's protein, it's essential fats, it's leafy greens. Another thing that's really good, eggs are a superfood. Animals do really well with eggs. Healthy cholesterol, protein, healthy fats, vitamins and minerals in that egg. They do super, and then they love it too. Usually dogs and cats, they love eggs. So I'm a real I, there's some really good raw foods out there, and we help people that want to cook for their pets. They say, well, can I cook for my pets and not give them raw? Yeah. Don't cook it, don't overcook it, but you can steam it or lightly cook it, and they do really well. They do. Plus, when you add the supplements in, they do really well. They do really well.
When we talk about raw, and not everybody even has an awareness of that concept, in the wild, and dogs and cats, like humans, where our biology really hasn't changed. So since Paleolithic times, I mean, we're still biologically, we're still cave people. We still have the same nutritional needs.
Right.
And dogs and cats, even though they're domesticated, the same thing is true. So in the wild, animals don't cook their food. They kill an animal or they forage for plants. They eat everything raw. So there is some benefit to some animals eating raw diets. And I will tell you that my two dogs, both are on raw diets. They eat raw meats and vegetables every day. And, I get it from a special place. I know it's good quality, it's clean, just like with humans, you want to make sure you're giving them the food that you give them has to meet the same standards as the food that you would eat. So if you're going to eat beef, for example, I've mentioned this before, you want to make sure that you're eating grass-fed beef, because that's what cows are supposed to eat.
Right.
And that the cows are well tended to and taken care of, and that it's a healthy animal. And so I feed my dogs an organic diet. Now, not everybody is willing or able to do that. So if you at least are able to give them our definition of real food, even if you're cooking it, if you're cooking good quality food for yourself, and it's any of those things that Dr. Moorehead just mentioned, beef, chicken, fish, lamb, dogs do well on rabbit as well, right?
Rabbit,
Rabbit,
bison.
bison.
Um, yeah. I haven't found a lot of success with some of the newer protein diets like kangaroo and that kind of thing. I don't. I try to keep it as
Simple.
keep it
Yeah,
simple.
keep it
Yeah,
simple.
'cause,
Yeah. No, it's totally unnecessary to do that.
right. Yeah.
But good quality proteins that you would be eating, good quality vegetables that you would be eating, and good quality fats. And Dr. Moorhead mentioned fish oil. My dogs get fish oil every day with their breakfast. They just gobble it right up. I give them coconut oil. And I have found that if you're going to start your dogs on coconut oil, there's I don't know if you agree with this, Dr. Moorhead, but there's a way of dosing it according to weight.
Yeah.
So I just look it up online and see what the dosage should be for the weight of the animal. But I always tell people, start slowly.
Right.
They can get loose stools if they're starting anything new. And that goes for any time you're making any change in your animal's diet, right? Just do it very, very slowly.
Yeah, you have to. I don't expect a client to bring their pet in and they're used to eating some of these store-bought brands and then expect to put them on, I call it jet fuel raw diet. Because here's what I find. I find that pets that are used to eating the cheaper foods, they've kind of lost the ability um, gastrointestinal wise, just
To
being able to
digest.
assimilate, to digest
Yeah.
the higher quality. It's like taking a Volkswagen and filling it with jet fuel. Probably Volkswagen's probably not going to handle jet fuel too well. So you gotta, okay, we're used to low test gasoline. Let's try the next higher gasoline and see how the Volkswagen does with that. Let's do that for a few weeks to a few months, and then maybe we can start to add in the higher test gasoline. And same thing with animals. You want to, unless you're talking about a stage 4 cases where it's like, okay, now you can't have any sugars. Now you can't have zero grains, zero sugars, zero, unless you're dealing with that, you have to be a little bit more drastic, I feel.
When you
And
say stage 4, you mean cancer, right?
I mean, stage 4 main cancerous,
Mm-hmm.
particularly malignant cancer stuff. They can't
Right.
have a lot of, sugars. They can't have a lot of stuff like that. But to me, that's kind of the exception.
Mm-hmm.
Other than those cases, you can work with the owner and the patient to make gradual changes in improving the diet.
Right.
So that's why I came up with a good foods list that is categorized in what I've researched and what I've muscle tested, that
Mm-hmm.
have been like foods that pets tend to be compatible with, and
Mm-hmm.
came up with the 3 categories. What I found were the best kibbles, which are not a whole lot, but then we have your cooked diets, and then you have your raw food diets. So
Mm-hmm.
people can choose what they're comfortable with, and I'm okay with that, because if they're on a nutrition program, we also have the supplements on board,
Mm-hmm.
start getting the body back in, you know, biochemical balance. So, but it's a process. It's just like, just with humans. Your doctor, if you've been eating this way and have this lifestyle for 30 years, you're not going to go and tell a patient, okay, now you have to do a 180 right now and do it this way and start eating that way. And it don't work like that. It don't work like that with animals and their owners. So we have to work with their reality. What is real to you that you can make changes with your pet? What's real to you? Because I'd love to say, oh yeah, here's the perfect raw food diet. Here you go. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. You got people in the house, other people in the house, slipping them some milk bones, or slipping them some, begging strips, which is, or slipping them some type of some type of all these treats that are on the market for these pets. I tell my owners, they'll ask me, they'll bring it in and they'll want me to test it, muscle test it. And I say, okay, I'll muscle test it, but let's look at the ingredients. And they go, oh, I didn't even think to look at the ingredients. It said natural, well balanced. I said, okay, good. So let's look at the ingredients. We turn it over. Here we go. Dextrose, glycerin, corn syrup. Um, what's the other code names for sugar? Sugar. And they go, oh my goodness, wow. I said, yeah, I'll test it. I'll test it on Fifi. But then they go, never mind, Dr. Moorehead, I know. I know it's not going to work. It's like, people, we need to read. Don't look at what's on the front, because what's on the front is there to get you to buy the product. You got to read the ingredients on the back. And they go, wow, I didn't even think about looking at the ingredients. Um, um, what is it? Pea protein, rice protein. It's all of this tapioca starch. It's all sugar, grains and sugar. And people, it looks good on the front and the animal loves it. But so it's working with, to me, and I know you can follow, you agree with this. It's like us. They are what they eat. I can give you the greatest, now it's CBD oil. Now that's the panacea. That's the be all end all. It used to be colloidal silver and some of this other stuff. Now it's that. And I'm not saying it doesn't work or it doesn't help, because we have some patients on those things, but it's like, what is this patient eating? You got to get to that. I don't care what you it's amazing. If a pet isn't getting better, it's like, time to put the food journal back in. Let's see what this pet is eating. And the pet is getting something in the diet that's a violation. Almost one for one. So,
And animals are smaller generally than humans. Not all of them. Some animals are big, but when they're little, their little bodies, and they're eating even a little bit of bad stuff, it can have a really big effect. And some of those commercial treats that you were just mentioning, with all those ingredients that are toxic, it's the equivalent of eating Doritos or Chips Ahoy. It's junk food. It's
right,
junk food. It's no better for your pets than you eating something similar. And then some of the kibble is like eating fast food. It's like eating McDonald's.
right,
That's the stuff that's in there. So basically, the basic principle that applies to humans applies to pets. One of my favorite sayings, and I've said this on previous videos, is the most important thing you need to know about a food label is if it has a label, not food.
no food, right,
There should be no ingredients, right? So my dogs, their treats are, can't say that word too loud because they're both in the room with me. They're gonna expect something.
right,
But their treats are freeze-dried meat, freeze-dried chicken, freeze-dried lamb, lamb lung. Nothing else is in it. It's just a little tiny piece of meat that's been dried,
right.
and they love that. So pets aren't that usually that picky. There are some animals that are very picky. Do you run into that a lot? Animals that I have a friend with a dog that she just struggles. The dog will only eat if she brings the dog's food to the dog park. So I'm there every morning with her, and she gives, breaks off pieces. It's little freeze-dried patties, and decent brand. It's on your good food list. I checked. But the dog will only eat there in the dog park. If she tries to feed the dog at home, the dog won't eat. That's probably a behavior issue.
Yeah, I think that probably is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm trying to think. Recently, we had a client bring in her dog, and the dog will only, I gotta remember, the dog won't eat. The dog was eating fine, but then when she started going back to work, after, this COVID thing. She won't eat unless the owner spoon feeds her. And if the owner puts the food down and goes to work and comes back, the food is still there. So the owner has to feed this dog, has to hand feed this dog, or else she won't eat. So we found out that she does have a brain liver connection. And when I say that, it's the priority is the liver, but it's affecting the appetite centers in the brain. Because there's appetite centers in the brain. And so once she's still a work in progress, but once we cleaned up her liver, the behavior started to get better.
Okay, good.
So,
There, I'm glad I asked that question because these are some of the things that we can actually achieve with animals that conventional vets don't do or cannot do. Um, if you are interested in finding out more about nutrition response testing, doctors in your area or vets in your area, I'm happy if you want to leave a comment to get you that information. It's one of the things that I spend a lot of time doing, matching up people with doctors who do what Dr. Moorehead and I do, be that for humans or animals, because there are things that we can figure out using this technique that your conventional medical doctor is not going to figure out, and also not necessarily apply nutrition to, right? So conventional medical doctors, conventional vets just prescribe medication. That's really all they do. And then if they do recommend a change in diet, it's basically a commercial food that would not be on the good foods list.
it's not going to be on the good.
Right.
This is true. It will not be on the good foods list. Now, in the conventional vet's defense, that's how we were trained.
Right.
That's how the medical
Right.
profession is trained.
Right.
But here's the thing. Here's what I realized, that there had to be something else out there besides just looking at symptoms and giving a medication for a symptom. There has to be a better way of handling the body. And so, I looked, and a lot of my colleagues, I love them to death, went to school with them, hung out with them, studied with them. Their minds are their minds aren't open to looking at just the possibility of there being something else out there. And I do both. There's some patients that I have them on some medicine. They're diabetic. I have them on insulin. Some of them are hypothyroid. So I have them on thyroxine or levothyroxine. But I also have them on better diet, nutritional supplements to heal and rebuild the organ. You there's more to just treating symptoms. I mean, because eventually the medicine is going to take you out. The disease might not take you out, but the medicine will.
Right, because I've mentioned this before, there is no such thing as a drug without a side effect, which creates another problem in the body, which you may need another drug for. And what we
Went
can
viral, right?
what we can say for sure is no matter what diagnosis you might have or the animal might have, what condition you might be struggling with, or what medication you might already be taking or the animal is already taking, nutrition can only improve it. Nutrition will support the body. And there's, many of my patients that have been on medications that after time, the body no longer needs them. And I'm sure that's true of your patients as well. So we have to wrap up pretty soon, because I know when we do videos that are too long, people generally don't watch the whole thing, even when they're really interested in it. So I try to keep them short. But the one thing that I just want to mention, this is something that bothers me a lot, because I talk to a lot of pet owners, and this happens with, in terms of human health as well, but especially with pet owners, because it's such an emotional, let's say, I don't know, situation, when if your pet is sick or struggling with a health condition, when you bring it to a vet, and most people, they don't have a lot of expertise or knowledge about animal health. So they have to just trust the vet and just do whatever the vet says. And a lot of times I feel like they are, and I'm not like trying to put down vets or invalidate them, but I've heard story after story of vets prescribing treatments that were completely unnecessary or incorrect diagnoses. I feel like it happens more with animals than with humans. And I feel like you need to educate yourself as a pet owner. You need to question, you need to get second opinions, or you need to find somebody that does holistic stuff in addition to conventional, so that you can have another viewpoint. I had there was a dog owner in the dog park that I go to, whose dog was having chronic urinary tract infections. I think I actually texted you about this case. And we recommended a change in the dog's food and a couple of nutritional supplements, and gone. Meanwhile, before I talked to the owner, the dog was on antibiotic after antibiotic after antibiotic, and never ever achieving a result. And it was really pretty simple for us to fix the situation. And I find this to be true very frequently. So yeah, go ahead.
No, unfortunately, it happens. It happens a lot, and I can't tell you how many owners have come in frustrated. I mean these owners aren't just going to the regular vet. These owners are going to specialists, and I'm talking about neurologists, urologists, orthopedic folks, internal medicine folks, and they come in with and they come in with a cat, and the cat is on. I promise you, Doc, the cat is on. They have a cat on 7 or 8 different medications.
I've seen it. Yeah.
A cat.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things about cats is what we do, they don't take much. A drop here, a drop there.
Yeah.
But that's the allopathic method that we're under. And I agree with you. You have to go see, even if you don't go see, a person that does what we do, which I think people should, but a holistic practitioner is just that. They look at they don't look at, okay, this pet is having these consistent urinary tract cystitis, inflammation of the bladder. Okay, so let's just look at the bladder. That's not how the body works.
Right.
It's not how the body, I can't tell you how many patients have had bladder issues because they had liver issues, because they had adrenal or spleen issues. I can't, the wrong water. They're drinking tap water.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that. Right. Don't give your pet's tap water. Dr. Moorehead drilled that into me. He was literally yelling at me when I first got my one of my rescues. He had a seizure, and the first thing Dr. Moorehead said to me was, "What kind of water is he drinking? Change his water."
Yeah.
And yeah.
And I'll have people that they come in and they have their pets on what seems to be an awesome raw food diet. Um, and I say, okay, what kind of water are you feeding them? Tap water.
Right. Yep.
But I don't drink it. But
Mhm.
I didn't realize it wouldn't be okay for my dog.
Right.
Okay, you got half the battle because you're not drinking it, but don't feed it to your pet. I don't know about how water is in New York, but you don't drink water down here if you want to be healthy. You
Right.
don't.
Well, most water systems have a lot of chlorine and fluoride and
Right. Yes.
those kinds of chemicals in it. In fact, I'm going to be doing a video just on water. There's also bromine in water. I did a whole research project on that, and it's pretty
Even
frightening.
chloroform. Yeah,
Yeah.
chloroform.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's it's a mind it's a mindset. It's like these bodies that we have, these bodies that animals have, they're not okay. There's the heart out here, there's the liver over here, there's the thyroid over here. So if there's a heart problem, let's just look at the heart, isolate the heart and just look at that, not taking into account it could be kidney congestion that's causing the heart to overwork. So, but I'm going to give the heart something to help it get stronger, but not handle the kidney. You you got to look at you got to look at these biological machines as holistically. You just can't, you just shouldn't. You can, but you won't be getting it. You'll be missing the mark. You got to look at everything. I got to look at everything: the food, the water, the the treats, the what is the what what is the owner wearing? What kind of perfume that's causing the pet to be wheezing and sneezing? We
Mm.
have to look at a lot of times we have to look at everything about this patient and the owner.
Yeah.
You have to be like Sherlock Holmes.
Hmm.
You have to put on your detective hat, because if I'm working up a case and it's not getting better, well, there's some things we look for in the 13 steps of nutrition response testing that you look at. But it's like, okay, there's a piece of the puzzle that I'm not getting,
Hmm.
because the answer's there.
Right.
But it's not, okay, here's one drug. Okay, that doesn't work. Okay, here's another antibiotic. Okay, that one, let me give you a stronger antibiotic. No, you're treating the symptoms and you're making it worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're preaching to the choir. You talk
No, I
about
know. No, I know. Is that is directed to the public that is listening to this, and I just want to make sure people know that they need to ask more questions. You can't be passive when it comes to health. You can't just be told what to do and then do it. Things like vaccines, whether it's for yourself or your pet, you know, ask questions, do research. Is it really necessary?
right.
um, is it going to create harm? And if you can't get answers directly from your practitioner, whether that's your vet or your own medical doctor, find someone that can answer those questions for you. That's what I want people to really think about, because pets are totally dependent on us. We have to do the right thing.
Yeah, it's not for us. With you, it's for us too, but to a lesser extent. It's patient management, but for us, it's more client management,
Hmm.
because we can fix the patient, but the client has to be the one
Just follow through.
that's,
Right.
the steward of the pet's health.
Right. Same thing
Pet's
with
not gonna,
working with children. Yeah.
right. The
Mhm.
pet's not gonna get in the car, turn on the car, and drive down the street to the vet.
I know. I'm trying to teach my dogs how to
Yeah,
drive,
teach
but
your
it's
dog
not
that.
going well. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Anyway,
might be.
yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead. Did you
No,
have
I was
anything
gonna
else?
say you might be easier getting them the muscle test than to drive down the street. But
I'm just working on all of the above. We never know what they're going to come up with next. My dogs, they're pretty interesting, really, really smart animals. One of my dogs, I think, is as smart as a 3-year-old child. So,
oh yeah, I believe it. Yeah,
yeah.
cool.
Anyway, all right. Well, we'll wrap it up now. And I thank you so much for spending this 45 minutes with me. I deeply appreciate it. And if you
Yeah, it
do
was
have
fun.
good, I'm glad I could provide you with some entertainment for the afternoon. If you folks have any questions for Dr. Moorhead, don't hesitate to put them in the comments. I will ask him for you and give you an answer if I don't know the answer myself. And please remember, if you're enjoying this channel and you haven't had a chance to subscribe, just hit the subscribe button. And then, the usual, like the video, send it, share it to people that you think will benefit from it. Um, any pet owners that you know that you think would benefit from hearing this information. Our goal here is to give pets the healthiest and longest life possible, of course. And you folks stay well. Thank you so much again, Dr. Moorhead. And we will see you folks again next time. Take care, everyone.